appreciate everybody listening in today. And again, sorry about that, just a little glitch getting started with the Google Hangout here. But I think we are good now, and I hope that everybody can hear me. One more time, Julie Kaley, real estate broker, license number 014122616. And today is January 28th, and it is 7 p.m. And the title of my broadcast today is called Investing in HUD Homes. So for those of you who have listened to me in the past, you know that I do a lot of podcasts and broadcasts about HUD Homes. And I also do some other stuff about entrepreneurship, etc. But I have done a series about HUD Homes for the last couple of years. Kind of covers all kinds of things, including how to buy a HUD home, if you're a real estate broker, how to advertise HUD homes, what are HUD homes, where do you find them, etc. I haven't done an investing one in quite a while, and I am also a real estate investor in addition to being a real estate broker. So I do have an interest in investing as well. Now, I do not invest in HUD homes because I list them, and we are not allowed to invest in HUD homes being a HUD listing broker. So I just want to put that out there. I do belong to a few different investment groups and communities online and such where we talk about investing in HUD homes. So I thought it was about time to go ahead and actually do a broadcast, a podcast, and I'm trying something new with a Google Hangout or a webinar, I guess, this evening as well. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. So I always like to start with the basics when I talk about HUD homes. The first thing that I always go over with when I'm talking to anybody about HUD homes, whether it's a buyer, an owner-occupant buyer, an investor, another realtor, a lender, etc., one of the questions that comes out in the very beginning is, what is a HUD home? And we've talked about it a lot and gone over the definition quite a bit of what a HUD home is. But if it's something that you're not familiar with, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the definition from the BLB Selling Broker's Handbook. Okay, what is a HUD home? A HUD home is a home that has gone into mortgage default with a loan that is insured by the Federal Housing Administration, also known as FHA. It's referred to as a HUD home. When this occurs, the lender takes possession of the property and conveys ownership to HUD. HUD then sells the home through their asset management contractor, such as BLB Resources. A HUD home may be a single-family house, a townhouse, a condominium, a mobile home, or a multifamily home attached up to 4 units. So that's your basic definition of what a HUD home is. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a single-family stick-built home. All those different variations can fall under the HUD home category. So anything that was at one point eligible for an FHA loan could in theory become a HUD home. Since we're doing a podcast and webinar tonight on investing in HUD homes, I would like to go over with you HUD's definition of an owner-occupant buyer versus an investor buyer, because it is a very important distinction. So first, I'd like to say that HUD homes may be purchased by individuals, a company, a HUD-approved nonprofit, or a government entity that can secure financing or pay cash for the property. Local listing brokers, their affiliates, owners, managers, employees, sales agents, brokers, and family members and business partners are prohibited from purchasing any HUD homes. Employees of a HUD contractor or subcontractor and their family members are also prohibited from purchasing a HUD home. There are actually 5 different types of buyers that can buy HUD homes, but for the purpose of our training and information tonight, we're going to talk about the 2 main types, an owner-occupant, and then, of course, all of you who are listening out there, hopefully an investor or an aspiring investor. So here's HUD's definition of an owner-occupant versus an investor. Owner-occupant is a person who plans to live in the property as their primary residence for at least 1 year and has not purchased another HUD home as an owner-occupant within the last 2 years. Okay, that's the definition of an owner-occupant. An investor An investor purchaser is someone who buys the property as a second home or as an investment, or who does not qualify as an owner occupant. Okay, so it's pretty black and white of what is considered an owner occupant, and then everybody else is pretty much considered an investor. Okay, we do get the question occasionally about somebody buying the home for a relative or a sibling or child, however, to live in. But remember, a second home is considered an investor purchase. It's not considered a owner occupant. Okay, so that's always an important distinction. All right, so the next question is, well, that's really great. You know, we've got the definition of a owner occupant versus an investor, but where do I find these HUD homes? That's a great question. All of the HUD homes are located at hudhomestore.com, and I'll spell that for you. It's HUD, H-U-D, home, H-O-M-E, store, S-T-O-R-E.com. If you go to hudhomestore.com, you can search for HUD homes across the entire country, and you can search by state, you can search by county, you can search by street, by city, you can search by the type of buyer, which is an important distinction if you're an investor, and we'll talk about that some more as well. It really is a very, very user-friendly website, very easy to use, very easy to see, very easy to navigate, and it does have a lot of information about HUD and about their listings in general. Somebody had recently posted on an online community that I listened to about where is a website where they can find HUD homes. They're looking for HUD homes in several different places. So I directed them to HUD Home Store because that has all of the HUD homes throughout the entire country. Now, if you're in my area, in Central California, we also list all of our HUD homes on the local MLS. For me, that's called the CR MLS or the MetroList MLS. We have areas that belong to both of those MLSs here in the Central Valley. And I know there are other MLSs throughout this area as well, smaller ones, depending on where you're located, if you're in the Bay Area and such. But in my area, it's the CR MLS and the MetroList MLS. And we do put all of our HUD homes on the MLS, and we designate them as HUD homes, so they are pretty easy to identify. If you're out driving around and you see one of my properties, you'll also see what we call an all-in-one window sign that states that it's a HUD home and also has our office phone number on there. And then you'll also see our yard sign that's got a rider identifying the property as a HUD home. Because we do get people specifically looking for HUD homes, we want to make sure that we're identifying those to potential buyers out there. You may have heard in the past that HUD gives preference to owner occupants when selling their properties. And this is true. So that's why it's really important to know what those dates and deadlines look like and what those periods look like so that you as an investor know when you can bid on a HUD home. HUD has two different listing periods for their properties. One is called the exclusive listing period, and the second is called the extended listing period. During the exclusive listing period, that's when the home is first listed, priority is given to owner occupants, nonprofit organizations, and government entities. The duration of the exclusive listing period will vary depending on the property's FHA insurability. If the property is being sold as insurable or insurable with escrow, the exclusive listing period is 15 days for owner-occupant purchasers. After the 15th day, if there are no winning bids, then it goes to what we call the extended listing period. Now, why is that so important? Because that is the magic word that allows investors to make offers on HUD homes when it goes from the exclusive listed period to the extended listed period, and it opens it up for all bidders. Now, it doesn't mean that an owner occupant can't still come in and put in a bid, but it does open the window or the door or the opportunity for investors to put in an offer where they were not previously able to do. If the property is one of the two following classifications, uninsurable or uninsurable but 203K eligible, the exclusive listing period is actually shorter. It's 5 days for owner occupant. After the 5th day, if there's no winning bids, Then it enters the extended listing period. And remember, extended is the magic word, so that opens the door for investors to come in and place their bid. So it's really important to check when the exclusive listing period ends and when it opens for the extended period, because that's when you as an investor can come in and put your bid in. Now, I have seen in the past that there are a good majority of homes that sell to owner occupants, and that's HUD's initiative. They want to sell their properties to owner occupants, to put people in neighborhoods, and that's just a big goal of theirs. But it doesn't mean that there's not opportunities for investors as well. Some properties might have a finance issue or might need some rehab or just have some other issue that is just not appealing to owner occupants that could really work for an investor. And I've seen people get some good deals on HUD Homes on the investor side. I've seen people flip HUD Homes. I've seen people buy them as buy and hold. I know I've listened to a few different podcasts on Bigger Pockets and a couple other things where people are wholesaling HUD Homes, or they're taking possession of them for a short amount of time and then reselling them. There's no deed restrictions on that, so you are free to do all of those things. And I have seen people be fairly successful with that in my area. Not the wholesaling, I haven't seen that, but the flipping and the buy and hold. Definitely have seen both of those happen with properties that I have had listed that were HUD homes. So it is a real opportunity for investors. And sometimes people shy away maybe from, bidding on a HUD home because they don't really know how the process works, or they don't really know what a HUD home is or understand where they can find the HUD homes. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast and webinar as well, because I want to make sure that you have all the tools necessary in order to go out there and be successful with your investing. Okay, so here's a couple of things to know about HUD homes. All HUD homes are sold in as-is condition. I'm going to say that one more time. All HUD homes are sold in as-is condition, meaning that HUD will not do any repairs to the property. No repairs can be done prior to the close of escrow. They will not do any repairs, nor will they allow the buyer to do any repairs prior to the close of escrow. You can't come in and rekey the property prior to close of escrow. You can't store things prior to close of escrow. You certainly can't move in or move a tenant in prior to close of escrow. All of those things are a big no-no. Okay, you can't do anything with the property until you own it. HUD does allow an inspection period for their properties once you're under contract, and it's a 15-day inspection period. For investors, it's a FYI, for your information only. It's not a contingency of the sale. So you might want to do some due diligence before you bid on a property, and certainly make sure that you've walked the property and are able to see it before you get into contract. 30 days is given for a closing period. Extensions can be made, but the buyer will need to prove that closing is imminent, and the buyer will need to pay for an extension. It's usually a few $100s depending on the price of the property. So it is really important to try to close within that 30-day time frame. And I know as investors, most investors want to close as soon as possible anyways, so it's generally not a problem. A lot of HUD properties get financed via cash, but they will take a loan as well. I've seen people be successful with purchasing HUD homes, private money, with hard money. I've seen people be successful buying HUD homes with conventional loans as well. So again, it really just depends on the property and what type of financing that it's eligible. So this is a perfect time to segment into that conversation of the insurability and the financing eligibility of the properties. So when HUD gets a property in its inventory, they're going to do an assessment of it to determine what type of financing is going to be able to be used to purchase that property. Okay, so FHA offers financing options that are tailored to HUD homes, but remember, as an investor, you're typically not able to utilize an FHA loan because FHA loans are for owner occupants. Okay. So they have different considerations that they look at. And then what they do is they assign a insurability to the property. And there's 4 different insurabilities that a property will fall into one of them. The first one is called insurable, FHA 203B. So the definition of insurable is also abbreviated IN, is properties are listed as insurable qualify for FHA 203B financing, which is a standard FHA loan. This disposition represents properties that do not have obvious minimum property requirement repairs. So what does that mean for an investor? Well, what that means is that that property is, nothing has been called out on it that would stop somebody from buying it FHA, okay? So as an investor though, remember you're not getting an FHA loan. So I think that it would be reasonable to assume that this property would go conventional financing, private financing, hard money financing, and of course cash. So you have a lot of options with this property, generally, this property classification, generally meaning that there won't be a lot of restrictions on the financing. Of course, your lender's going to do an appraisal if you're getting financing and they have the final say, but in general, that's what you should expect. The second insurability is called IE, insurable with escrow, which is FHA 203B with a repair escrow. Now, I have seen the majority of properties on HUD Homes fall under this category. Properties listed as insurable with escrow will qualify for FHA 203B with repair escrow financing. This represents properties that have minimum property requirement repairs, which must be addressed post-closing, meaning after the property closes. It cannot exceed more than $5,000. The necessary repairs are itemized in the disclosure found on the addendums tab at HUDHomestore.com. The repairs are an estimate. The seller does not guarantee or warrant the property is free of visible or hidden structural defects, termite damage, lead-based paint, or any other condition that may render the property uninhabitable or otherwise uninsurable. So remember, you need to do your own inspections and your own due diligence. Now, the repair escrow only applies to FHA 203B financing. It doesn't apply to financing outside 203B or a cash purchase. If the purchaser is using non-FHA financing, conventional, USDA, VA, etc., or paying cash, the repair escrow is not applicable. So what this tells us is there's been one or more things that have been identified as a potential financing issue. And if the buyer was getting owner-occupant FHA, they could address those issues. So what you can do if you're getting a loan is you can look at these items on the disclosure document on HUDHomestore.com. And if you're unsure if your lender is okay with them, you can take the list to your lender and ask them, hey, these are the issues that have been called out or known about already. Is that going to be a problem? And you still finance with the property in this condition? And most of the time, what I've seen, the answer is yes, it's still eligible for conventional. But again, that's a lender by lender decision. So it's really important. You're going to have that information up front. So it's really important to get with your lender and go over those things, right? Knowledge is power. Having that information up front, it sure gives you a lot more options for financing. And of course, cash. Cash works as well, right? There's no stipulation from a lender on cash, right? Because there is no lender. The third category is called uninsurable, and that's abbreviated UI. They do not qualify for FHA financing. Typically, they have repairs that exceed $5,000, the MPR repairs, or they don't qualify for FHA financing for some other reason, okay? So non-FHA financing, such as conventional, USDA, hard money, private money, cash, are most often used for properties with this disposition. And that's UI, uninsurable. And then the final is uninsurable 203K eligible. And this goes with the acronym of UK. Properties listed as uninsurable 203K eligible do not qualify for FHA 203B financing. However, these properties may qualify for FHA 203K financing, which is an option for a rehab loan for owner occupants only. So as an investor, if you see something with the UK insurability, you're not going to be eligible to get a FHA 203K loan because that is a rehab loan for owner occupants. Now, there are some banks that will do investor rehab loans, and that could be an option. It may still qualify for conventional financing, depending on the condition and what those repairs are. Certainly, you could purchase it with cash. You might be able to do private money or hard money on it as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be financed. It just means that there may be things that we need to look at to work around, okay, and to make sure that your lender is okay with doing. So the great thing is that HUD provides us with that information up front so that we know what we're getting into when you, or you know what you're getting into when you make a bid on one of these properties. Okay, a few more tips and things to know. Your realtor will submit, or your real estate agent will submit your offer for you, or if you're a real estate agent, you can submit an offer on your own behalf as long as your broker is registered with HUD, and that's another topic, but check with your broker and see if they have an NAID number. Most of them do, and if not, they can just apply for one. It's free. There's no charge to it. It's just a little bit of a process and some documentation that you need to send into HUD in order to be able to do that. Bids are submitted electronically at HUDHomestore.com, and it's a sealed bid, meaning the listing agent does not see them. The listing agent has no idea how many offers there are. The listing agent has no idea what those offers look like. The listing agent has no idea if there's any bids in there at all, right? Unless maybe if they inputted one. Otherwise, it's a totally blind bid. We as listing agents do not see anything. Even when they open the bids and they tell us which bid they accepted, we don't see any of the other bids that were submitted in there, okay? So it is truly a sealed bid, which is great because it ensures that everybody gets a fair shot at making their offer. And you can offer, whatever price you think is fair. Sometimes HUD will do counter offers, and you'll get an email back saying, hey, these are our terms. We need to have a minimum of this. Sometimes you won't get a counter offer. Your offer will just be rejected. And then, of course, if your offer gets accepted, then you would get an acceptance. Speaking of, if your bid gets accepted, HUD does require original signatures on the contract, and the HUD does not use the standard real estate contracts. So in California, we have what we call CAR contracts, California Association of Realtor, CAR forms that we use, CAR contracts and addendums, etc. HUD does not use those. They won't sign them. They have their own contracts, okay? And they have a couple different versions of the contracts. They have an owner-occupant version, and they have an investor version. So if you're making an offer as an investor, of course, you're going to be signing the investor contract. And again, the good news is HUD publishes what that contract looks like, so you can feel free to read it through before you even make an offer, so you can understand what the terms of the offer are. No problems. Very transparent with the information. You've got all that information up front. If you're in my area, you can see those contracts at blbresources.com under forms, but they're also posted on the addendums tab at HUDHomestore.com, and your agent should be able to provide you with a copy as well when you're making the offer. Now, HUD does require original signatures, so you need to make sure that you're available in person. So if you're making bids out of the area, that's probably going to involve some overnighting back and forth. And HUD does keep us on a pretty strict time frame, meaning they expect their contracts back within 2 business days. So it is kind of a hustle to get all that together and down to HUD ASAP once the offer gets accepted. If you're paying cash, be sure you have proof of funds dated in the last 30 days. Otherwise, they will reject the contract. If you're getting financed, then of course you need to have an approval letter showing what type of financing that you're obtaining, and again, dated in the last 30 days. Standard stuff. That's not that unusual to ask for, but I like to throw it in there because if you don't have that, then you really shouldn't be placing your bid on a HUD home. If you're making a cash offer on a HUD home and you don't have proof of funds or the cash in the bank or the ability to prove it, then you really should not be making an offer, because If your offer gets accepted, they're not going to execute your contract without it. Okay, so you're just wasting your time. So it's in your best interest to have that ready to go as well. And I don't think that's asking for anything out of the ordinary or unreasonable. I think that's a very reasonable request on HUD's part. And I'm sure that you can all understand that. If you were a seller, you'd want to see somebody's pre-approval letter or proof of funds. Buyer Select is a program that had started a few years ago where it allows the buyer to choose their own closing company. And that is in our area. California is a buyer select state. If you're in a different state, the rule may be a little bit different. I'm not sure. I'm only most knowledgeable of the HUD home sale process in California. What that means is the buyer selects their own title company or their own closing company. Here in California, we generally do title and escrow together. In some areas in Southern California, they do separate title and escrow. But nevertheless, the buyer chooses the closing company, and then the buyer will be responsible for paying those closing fees of title and escrow. Okay, that way you are able to work with who you would like to work with and maybe find somebody local or whoever it is that you have that relationship with, and you're not relying upon HUD's closing agent anywhere. They will work with your local title or closing company. So what action items can you take if you're thinking about looking at HUD homes? What I tell people to do if they're just getting started about HUD homes and they just want to start looking at them online to start with, go to HUDhomestore.com. And when you go to that screen, you will see the top half of the web page has like a map of the United States, and on the left it says HUD Homes. Right under that is the search box. Now you could click on the state as well, but I like to use the actual search box where it says search properties, and it's a big gray kind of horizontal rectangle there. I guess it's called a rectangle instead of a box. And what I like to do, and the reason why I want to point this out, is on the bottom row where it says buyer type. If you click on that, you can change the buyer type to investor. That way you can only see what you can make a bid on. So if I'm going to change it to California and investor, and then I'm going to click on it. And right now in California, there are 37 properties that an investor can make an offer on. So that means that there are 37 properties in the extended period. And that's actually a pretty good number, a decent amount of inventory, because I've seen it be a lot less. So that's actually really good news for investors. And now they're everywhere. I mean, I see stuff in Fresno, I see stuff in Kern County, lots of stuff in the Central Valley, several properties in Fresno, Visalia, some stuff in Southern California, Bakersfield. These are all popular investment areas due to the crazy California real estate market still, of people just the extremely high prices and trying to get cash flow. We do have a lot of investors here in the Valley. Some Riverside County stuff, San Bernardino County. There's kind of stuff all over the place. Palm Desert, Santa Maria, Palmdale, North Hollywood. So there's properties all over the place. So that is my tip to you, is to change that to the investor as the buyer type. That way you can see what exactly you can bid on now. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't want to see what's coming, and you might just want to search it all, but that's just a good way. Now, you can also create an account. You go to the top right-hand corner and just register as the public, and you can actually do a saved search so that you can put in your criteria and your areas, and then every morning it will send the properties to your inbox. You don't even have to go to HUDhomestore.com and search. You get an email every morning, and the email comes early, like 3, 4, or 5 a.m. So when you wake up, after you're done with your miracle morning and you wake up and you get on your computer, you've already got the properties right there for you to take a look at and review and then pursue if something strikes your interest. Okay. And then, of course, they do have an iPhone app and a Droid app. So you can download those in iTunes called HUD Home Store. And if you want to search from your phone, you can as well. I have the app on my phone. I use it all the time. I also have the saved searches so that every morning I do it for the surrounding, I do it for Mariposa County, Madera County, Merced County, Stanislaus County, and San Joaquin County. The 5 counties kind of sandwiched around where I'm at so that I could keep a good eye on what's coming on the market or what's on the market, not what's coming on, what is on the market, because I do have owner occupants looking, but I also have investors looking in the area as well. So it's just interesting, or a really easy way to keep tabs on it without having to do too much work, right? You can make it as easy as possible for yourself. And when you click on it on HUD Home Store as well, it will also tell you who the listing agent or the listing broker is. But again, you can use the agent of your choice. You don't have to go through the listing office or the listing agent or the listing broker. Okay, well, that pretty much sums up the information that I wanted to communicate to everybody today. I really do hope that you found it helpful. And I hope that you do consider investing in HUD Homes in the future. And I really appreciate everybody listening in live, both on the Google Hangout and the podcast. And I am going to have this available for replay, and it will be posted to my Google Plus page and also my social media. And it'll also be on my website, so you can listen to it whenever you would like. You can go back and listen to it again. Feel free to share it with your friends or family or other investors. And I'm going to try to post it on some different forums that I belong to as well, just to help get the word out there. Again, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and hanging out with me in the Google Hangout. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you.